I think it varies from person to person, but if you're looking for the environment to give you happiness and satisfaction and make you enjoy your job, it's absolutely the wrong attitude. I'm absolutely with Chichi on this, is that your happiness in your job comes from inside of you, not from outside. There are very few people who work in an abusive environment where the boss is rude or swears or, you know, they are taken complete advantage of. Yeah, but a lot of us find ourselves in jobs that they're okay. But I read a book when I was young and impressionable, and it was about a janitor who found in their work huge personal satisfaction. And the whole essence of that was they did that job to the absolute best of their ability. They wanted to be the best janitor. Now, you know, it's not always about having a glamorous career and what other people think. It was that person knew the importance of clean toilets. That person knew that they got huge satisfaction in doing their job really well. And I applaud that. I think that's okay, you know, so you don't have to have this fabulous career to find inner fulfillment. You can find it in quite a simple job if you're doing that to the best of your ability. If you're not, the problem lies within. But I'm with Chichi all the way.
Welcome everybody to Minutes with Mpumi, the show that lets you understand what deep work is, the show that lets you understand what true entrepreneurship is, that it does not come easy. In the social media age, the information age, where everything is supposed to be a quick fix, this show brings you the deep insights of highly recommended successful people. Today on our show, we have the one lady who is so phenomenal. If she could be the president, I'm sure she would. She goes by the name of Kim Meredith. She is the CEO of the DealMaker company, former MD of Spectrum Solutions. She has written 4 books and even more coming. One of her books, which we are going to talk about today, is Dealonomics, where she tells us how you can make money in a bad economy. I'm not going to say much about her because she is just so phenomenal. Please welcome our fantastic, beautiful, admirable Kim Meredith. Welcome to the show.
I hope I live up to your introduction. My goodness, thank you very much.
You're welcome. It was so hard to put your introduction together because I really did not know what to leave out. Not what to take in, but what to leave out. But today we have all her in the studio. And thank you so much for watching at home. This is Kim. Your dad taught you how to think.
Yeah,
what
he would get very frustrated if we didn't think through cause and effect, if we didn't think about the consequences of what we were doing. If we went into things mindlessly. And he would get frustrated, cross with us. And of course, you know, when you're young, when you're a teenager, you want to make them cross, I suspect, your parents. But it really fostered something in me from a young age to think about the consequences of my decisions and my actions. And I would love to say I've lived by it. No, I haven't. But it's played a big role in my life, in the way I conduct myself.
So in which kind of situations did he do this? Like, did he pinpoint specifically, or each and every decision, each and every action, when you talk about cause and effect?
Well, let me give you one of my earliest memories. He would always ask my little brothers, and they were young, to help him fix something. And they wouldn't do it properly, and then he would shout at them because it was going to fall apart. Or they would pass him, he'd ask for a hammer and they'd pass him a spanner and say, but why would I want that? Think about it. And for me, you know, if I didn't sew the buttons on my little brother's shirt for school, I was only 8, but then he's going to go to school with no buttons, you know, and that doesn't look good. And so you always had to think a step ahead. And that has served me well, and I think it just becomes part of who you are. It becomes part of your fabric.
And do you think that's why you became this dreamer? I mean, you say you used to wake people up at night.
Oh no, I've always had a plan. I'm not a dreamer as in a romantic, as in, you know, I don't romanticize. I've always got some scheme, is more the dreaming that I talk about in my book, to make some money or invent something or a business. There's always been something going on in my head.
And you've been an employee before you became this top-notch lady who owns so many things. But in your entrepreneurial journey, you had to be an employee first, and that was quite a long time. You actually are an employee for a very long time.
Yeah.
And when did the start now concept come? Because you said you always had it inside of you, but you only started later.
Well, you touched on it when you said the dreams, the schemes. You know, from little, I was going to fence off some park and have a dog parade and charge people interest. Where I was going to get the wiring to fence off the park, first of all, was... but there was always some scheme. But I didn't have the privilege of, you know, being born into a connected family. My origins are very humble and modest, you know, typical working class people. And when I got my matric, I was the most highly qualified person the family had ever seen.
Wow.
And I said to my dad, I want to study. He said, don't be ridiculous. Women don't need to study. So everything I had to do after that. But, you know, so you get molded into thinking, well, you're supposed to get married, have babies, get a job. I think of those three, the only thing I did was get a job. So that's as far as I would go. But I don't. So I think that is a marker, and I'm impressed you picked up on it, of people who have a leaning towards entrepreneurial business or mindset. Not everybody is an entrepreneur, and I think that's part of a decision you need to make. Maybe you need to try it, fail, you know, go into corporate and say, I hate this, and then be an entrepreneur and have no money and say, well, I hate this more, you know. I think it's a privilege to be able to sort of figure it out. But a lot of us support ourselves, and we can't, you know, you can't have no income. You won't have a roof over your head. But I think what was the trigger for me was the scheming. But my path was mapped. I was going to leave school, be an air hostess, this is according to my dad, who loves me dearly. Okay, this is what he thought was best for me. And get married, have children, and like that's it. That was never my plan for myself, but I did get a job because that was the one thing I was okay with. And I had to, I didn't go to university. I was not going to be what was called an air hostess in those days. So. And when I went into business, I've chopped and changed. And let me tell you something, a secret about, you know, you said, oh, my introduction's fabulous. Everybody's got skeletons. Everybody's messed up. Wow. They just don't put it in their resume. I wouldn't give you a brief that said, well, she was asked to leave Parktown Girls, or they would expel her, or she was fired from the next 2 jobs. You know, I'm not going to tell you that, but everybody has that. And I think we measure ourselves against unrealistic ideals because you only see the good stuff. It's like we were talking earlier about social media. You see somebody's fabulous life. They're traveling, they've got a car, apartment, and the expectation is that's how your life is going to be. But it's in between the car and the apartment, it's littered with mistakes. But those mistakes are critical to our success ultimately.
So what do you think is the consequence? Because that is so profound. I think of now that we have this picture of like it's perfect, and then especially with entrepreneurs going into, even in the corporate space, even in working, people think working is great, you know, and you actually go into the space, you're like, whoa.
It's hard. It's hard. I'm not going to say being a corporate or what I call a salary man is easier than being an entrepreneur. Being an entrepreneur is easier than being a corporate person. I think you've got to find your own path, what makes sense, and sometimes you have to try it out. But if you're very security conscious, you're cautious, you're risk averse, don't become an entrepreneur. It's going to freak your brain out. But as I said, the scheming thing, and then going into a job. But I was really lucky along that path. After I got through my first few firings and, you know, found something I sort of liked. I had an amazing boss, and he was a mentor. And the one thing about mentorship is if you go up to somebody and say, will you mentor me? Most times they'll say no because they're busy, or, you know, if you just ask them questions, if you say to me, Kim, can I phone you from time to time? You know, there's a question I'd like to ask. I'd say, sure. You say, will you mentor me? I said, sure.
Mentally
I
feels
work
like, yeah.
long hours. I'm not sure that I have the time to do it justice. So that's a tip for anybody is, if you want to be mentored, just take it.
Don't just go and ask. 'Cause
Don't
now
ask
it's
to
like
be
a responsibility.
Yeah.
Oh.
But I had this boss. He was incredible. And I think I don't think I was particularly super talented or brilliant. I didn't have any qualifications. I didn't know who's who in the zoo in Johannesburg business. But he saw us prepared to work hard. And, I'd put the hours in and I was enthusiastic. And if I was doing something, I'd learn as much as I could about what I was doing. And because of that, he looked after me. And the one thing he made me do, and I was HR manager at 23 of a technology company. And the one thing he made me do was start my own business on the side. And he said, you've got to think up the idea and I'll support you. But that doesn't mean you get time off work.
Oh, okay.
So he helped me set up this business on the side that I could grow and play around with. And it became the business I eventually stepped into, which is Spectrum Solutions. You mentioned it. It was a payroll outsourcing company. Because I was in HR, so it was one of the things I knew. But, the market changes and your business shuts, and then you go back into corporate world, and you find a new idea and you pursue that, and the market changes. There's a wonderful, I don't know where the statistic comes from, but of all the women in the world, and assuming there are 3.5 billion women, of which maybe, I don't know what percentage would be models, there's 8 supermodels.
Oh, yes.
And it's the same in business. Of all the people who start their business, maybe there's 8 Steve Jobses or Buffetts or, or Mosepis. It's the statistics are against you. But I think the dream is there, that you're going to make it big. And sometimes people don't appreciate what they've actually got because they're always thinking it could be more, it could be more.
Oh, yeah. Unsatisfactory results. There could be. Wow.
But, if you read books on entrepreneurship, it'll say, expect to fail. I think one book I read said you're going to fail 7 times before you have a successful business. When you're selling, what draws people to you is what do they want? If they get to choose it, it's much easier for you to sell or get them to subscribe or whatever it is, whatever action you need them to take. And there's this concept called hot buttons. What motivates people? But intrinsically, in their souls, in their hearts, what are they passionate about? It's fine. You were talking about passion earlier. It's finding that passion in somebody else. What's important to them? So one of my big hot buttons, something I'm passionate about, is animal rights. Now, that's not everybody's thing. Some people are passionate about abused children, women, equality, empowerment. We all motivate. I was born on this planet to walk the path of animal rights because I've felt it since I was a tiny little girl. You will have yours, but it's trying to find out what the other person's is, because often we attract to people that are similar to us. But if you spend the time and ask the questions about what are they passionate about, what's their hot button, what really motivates them, why do they make the decisions they do, it's a much easier job to sell. And I'm not saying manipulate, address what they're interested in authentically. So tell me about something you think about when you're little that still pervades today that you're passionate about.
It's people having food to eat. Good food.
Is it the actual food? Is it empowering them to make the money to find
it? Empowering them to make the money to
so they can feed
food,
their
yes,
families
feed themselves.
And eat proper food, not takeaways. I mean, that is something you mentioned when we were walking to the studio, is the takeaway thing. And so already you've given me a clue as to what you are passionate about is proper nourishment, but you didn't go into dietitian kind of work. So there's something more to it. So it's just saying, all right, so you want to help people. You want, why this program? I mean, You said it's aimed at youth, it's aimed at entrepreneurs. What are you wanting to achieve? Genuinely, I'm asking the question, what do you want to achieve here?
I really want to help people be better themselves, you know, and especially in what they're pursuing, you know, because we're making a lot of mistakes. That the journey itself is longer, but without the mentorship, like you said, you had your mentor, the journey becomes way unnecessarily longer.
Yeah.
So this is a teaching platform, actually, and that's why I always say I let the people who I'm interviewing speak the most, because I'm myself inexperienced, you know. It's Minutes with Mpumi, but it's actually Minutes with Kim, you know. It's not minutes
with Mpumi, hours with Kim, by how I feel on the receiving end of it.
You understand? So that's really it, you know. So and also hope. I once watched a documentary that inspired me so much on SABC3, and the people in that country specifically, they were killing each other. It was normal. It was an everyday thing. And they said that they don't care anymore. The government doesn't care. Nobody cares. And that's what happens when someone loses hope. And if there's anything I don't want to lose, all my peers, all the people who are watching, is hope. Because once that is gone, it's over.
I was interested in your comment about hope and the food and just trying to get to the bottom of it. So what I'm trying to do here is really identify what makes you tick, because that's your hot button and it's also your passion. But hope is intangible. And, you know, how do you engender that across a nation? Do you think they get behind unifying goals, or can you give it to the individuals, or do you think it's a combination?
It's definitely a combination of quality life, being able to make means, being able to provide. So it is a combination.
And it's about, you're saying the food, the quality of the food, it's about expecting more than just being satisfied that there's something.
Because especially with us, Black people, we grew up like that. I tell you now, chicken is a Sunday thing. Like, it's Sunday, chicken is, you can't just eat chicken any day, you know. And that's not healthy. That's not a good nutrition, you know, to just eat one type of meat, you know. But that's what our parents could afford, you know. And
you were lucky to get it, you know.
But you could get more. You could get more nutrition, you understand? So it's just, like I said, recently I just wrote a quote on Facebook that talks about in order to get a quality life. And that's why now I'm thinking, wow, this is so together, because I wrote about this 2 days ago, and now we're talking about it.
The laws of attraction.
Exactly. And now it's like, it's quality life, really. A quality life is very important, and that's why it goes back to even hospitals. I would love to see hospitals really serving people quality service, you know, not because you're a private hospital, but simply because you're a hospital. Schools, you can name it all.
So it's hope, and just I'm trying to tie it all back, because I really want to understand where you're coming from with your passion. If you give people hope, they can imagine more than what they've got. So how do you help them to get to the more? That's what you're really doing, isn't it? Am I right? I would be interested to get the audience feedback at this stage, because I think
that is so interesting, right?
It's you're saying, and it was the trigger for me was the food, linking it to hope, talking about passion the whole time. Is you want them to imagine a life beyond what they've got. You want to give them that hope. And if every single person has that hope, what a wonderful world. But it's how do we get there? And I think it's what lights your fire. You're talking about the chicken. When I was this big, I started refusing to eat meat. Not that we had it, you know, we would get fish on a Friday, and I think we'd get boerewors a couple of times a week. That was it. There was no fancy roasts and anything. I was not eating it, because I didn't think it was right. You're eating the animal, you know, and therein lies our little triggers from very young. I think part of us is born to a path, and it's okay. Your path, you don't know how you're going to get there, but that's okay. So you're saying you want to give people hope, that they can imagine a better future, that they can imagine beyond what you knew as a child. They can feed their families well, and you know, that creates a generation who then imagines more than that and more than that. And the interesting thing is, how do you get there? You know, how do you actually go about? So the hope, if you can link it to what lights their fire, or what the hot button is, fantastic. But how do you make that a reality? And that's what you're striving to do, is give people tips and tools on how to get to that point, so that that hope translates into reality. Am I off the money here? What do you think?
No, it's definitely that case.
So it's bringing hope.
Yes, it's definitely bringing hope. And wow, that is such a great question. I'm literally going to sleep on that tonight. But moving swiftly, in one of your books, you talk about something so interesting. And I would love you to explain this concept of the Cinderella complex, where you say there are women who are independent, they are working hard, but they're still waiting for Prince Charming.
Yeah, it is. The Cinderella complex is mostly associated with women, so it's a gender-specific thing. And the book you're talking about was Work Diva.
Yes.
That and Deal Diva, which was the second book I wrote, addressed women's issues. And I'm not drawn. Women's issues are not my path. It's just part of how, wherever I'm going, it's part of the road I've got to tread. And I like other women. I suppose that also helps. And I believe women have so much more they could do. But it's not I'm not here to campaign for empowerment of women. I just do it because I enjoy it. But the Cinderella complex is when you raised, privileged, not, doesn't matter, but somebody outside of you is going to sweep you off your feet, and you're going to have a happy ever after. So it's where you're waiting for somebody to rescue you, to give you the happiness, to give you the money, the castle. I don't know, it's different people, different things to different people. It might just be for somebody that somebody else will provide the food. But it's usually associated with a romantic or a female waiting for Prince Charming kind of. And I think that's a uniquely Caucasian thing. I don't know how much African law there is around these. The princess gets rescued by the prince. But regardless, I think a lot of women even are raised to look after children, to look after their parents as they age, to look after the husband. And the expectation is that's going to be returned. Somebody's going to provide for you. And the world is not a Disney movie. It's not paradise. It's difficult. And as women, we've got such burdens to bear. We've got a hard path that we tread. Of course, men think they're lucky, But I think it's harder for us. But it's the sense of being rescued and not taking responsibility for our own well-being, for our own success, for our own, why shouldn't a relationship, a partnership be 50-50? Are we prepared to be the lesser individual in a partnership? No. If you expect more, you get more. And I really wanted to advise, and talking about the Cinderella concept, advise young women, especially young women who are just coming into the workplace, don't wait for somebody to come and rescue you, to give you something. Go out and take it. And it's that confidence, the ability to sell. Just think, I'm entitled to be happy. I'm entitled to have a balanced relationship, because if you believe that is your reality. That's what happens. But if you're waiting to be rescued, I would hate to be a victim like that, where somebody's going to save me from whatever. And for women in particular, is go out and take it.
Wow.
It's hard, and we were laughing, I'm quite dominant.
Yeah.
I was going to say bossy, or I won't say bossy. But, but because I didn't know any better, because I didn't have a strong female figure growing up, I just thought, well, this, why can't I have it? And so I've always gone and pushed harder, and so I was nurtured or molded in a different way. And if you can do that with young women, with young people, say go out and get what you want, but don't think it's your birthright, or you're disadvantaged because of your birth. the circumstances of your birth. If that's what you want, go and find a way to get it. Without breaking the law, okay? Without becoming an entrepreneur or a celebrity or, these things we romanticize about. Just say, that's what I want, and take it step by step. Don't, in Facebook and the social media thing, yes, you see the car, but that maybe is all that person has got, is that nice car. And then you see the person who's overseas, and maybe that's all they haven't got a nice house. They live with their mother. They, walk, catch buses. And we put these images together, and we see somebody's got car, house, and why haven't we got all these things? It takes steps. But if you can just imagine, if you've got the hope that it could be more, and you drive yourself to that, paths open up. When you feel like you're swimming against the stream the whole time, something's got to be wrong. And it's always a slog. You've got to step back and saying, why is this so difficult? Am I on the right path? What am I really passionate about? What should I be doing with my life? So your business and the work you're doing is amazing. It's going to change people's lives. What you need is somebody to fund you, so this is your full-time job. Don't you think?
Of course.
So go and get
Definitely. Oh my goodness, thank you so much. Kim, you've traveled around the world.
Yeah.
Like I remember one time in your book, you've been to London where there was a celebrity and there was such a rush in that hotel because there's a celebrity within that hotel. There were cameras everywhere, blah, blah, blah. And I'm thinking, this lady has been everywhere. And then, but you mentioned the bad scars. Like, you're able to go out with those bad scars. And you even now mentioned heavy burden. Women carry heavy burden. You are married successfully, happily. We were supposed to have Kim last week, but we had because she had her husband's birthday party. That's sweet, but you're still able to be as great as you are. How do you go with those burdens out there?
No one has a perfect life. No one can tell you a story where they've just born like the Disney princess into this. No one has a perfect life. We've all got challenges and troubles, and we can choose. That holds us back, or it's just part of our journey. And I think we hang too much onto what's happened and how hard it's been, instead of thinking, wow, I'm healthy. I've got a broken foot, but but I'm healthy. I can do it. I can go out there and make it happen for myself. And I think we all of us carry scars. And I can tell you the sobbest stories about people I know, about my own life. And it's how we can move beyond those scars. But I love traveling. If I have spare money, there's nothing in my bank account because I will spend it on travel. Because that's what I love it. I love seeing new places. Wow. But that's not everybody's thing. Say what you're saying is, we all carry these burdens, and it's not just women. It's people, who all then get a new set of burdens and things that are associated with them. It's how you move beyond it. Can you? And I like what you're saying about hope. Is, can you see a future beyond where you are now? And if you can just help somebody see more than where they are now, and then more from there and more from there, you're creating a world of people who are achieving their purpose, who are living the life they should be.
So why do you write? Why do you write so many books?
It's my life's purpose. I've known since I was that big that I'm supposed to write. And I think that's a privilege, is to know what you're supposed to do. I've denied it, rejected it, walked away from it, but it keeps presenting. And like you get amazing letters from people saying, you've changed my life, or thank you for that insight. I get the same thing on the books, and it fills part of your soul, don't you think?
Kim, you're so great.
Please, my life is littered with mistakes and disasters, and it's okay, embrace them. It's part of your journey.
And do you have a favorite book in all those books that you've written?
That I've written was my one that's coming now on the breakdown of the family and relationships and patronage and rules-based societies versus people who build relationships, and how it both corrupt the way we interact. But that's non-fiction. I want to write trashy fiction.
Really? Wow.
I want to write stories that make people happy. But I seem to follow the path of non-fiction and trying to help people do better with their lives. So I just embrace it. But this next book I'm really excited about it.
Wow. So our audience, a lot of them are 20-year-olds, 30-year-olds, and they're probably saying, but Mpumi, you could have asked this question, Mpumi, you could have asked this question, you could have asked her this and this and this. So what would you, before we actually end, is you mentioned something so important, that people compromise conflict, right? People go into conflict and then they compromise it. Can you please just give us that before we go?
Yeah, when to get what you want, you have to go after it. As I said, we're not the fairy princess is not just going to land in our lap, whether it's a happy relationship, money, success, friends, whatever's important, a sense of fulfillment. It doesn't just come to us. We've got to go out. And you don't have to you can have a big goal, but do it in steps. It's okay. Little achievements count. And when you're going after what you want, there's only two ways to get it. You've got to first of all tell somebody else what you want, what your expectations are. If you don't tell people what you want, how are you going to get it? Go back to the 6-year-old. If you don't ask, you don't get. And you've got to ask people, and you then convince them, which is the persuading, that you're worthy of whatever you're asking for. And sometimes people are going to say, no, I'm not giving you an increase. And what you've got to do then is find a way to negotiate. Well, you say, all right, well, compromise is, oh, well, I'm very unhappy, but okay. Or you settle with this much when you wanted that much. A tiny piece versus the whole salami, as I think I called it in the book. It's a compromise is when you settle for less than you're worth, less than you ask for. But it doesn't mean you shouldn't be flexible. If somebody says to you, I cannot give you an increase, you're earning at the highest level of your salary band, I can't. Find what they can give you that you value. Can they give you extra leave? Can they give you a nice office, a fancy chair? Will they fund your studies? Will they, so find ways to make up what you want in different ways. But compromise is where you just settle for less. Negotiation is where you say, okay, I understand you can't. What about this? What about if you did that? But you're still asking, making suggestions. When you sell, though, when you persuade and convince, you're just taking it, and that's cool. And I always say sell first. But sometimes you have to give to get, and that's negotiation. I'll give you this. I'll work those extra hours so that you can do this for me. I will recruit people for you for nothing so that you can do this. So those are the two ways to get what you want. Is you're either going to have to convince somebody to give it to you, or, make an offer to get what you want. Don't just settle for less. That's the story of compromise. But if you don't ask,
you won't get. If you don't ask, you won't get. You got that yourself. Kim, we have an audience of 20-year-olds, 30-year-olds who are unhappy, who are happy, some of them, who are entrepreneurs, who are in the corporate space. What would you say to them?
Happiness is a myth.
Okay.
You're never going to be happy all the time. It's if you're happy all the time, it's going to be the new norm, and it's never going to be enough. You're going to want that extra. Happiness comes from little things, from achieving little goals, from taking steps, from a conversation with someone special, from a little win. A realization is a great book. Don't go for this blanket happiness. That's not. If you can find happiness in little things, your life as a whole will be a blissful place. But accept that it's not always happy. Find what you can. Do what you can to make you happy. Stroke a dog. Stop eating pigs.
Thank you so much. We really do appreciate it. Thank you so much, Kim, for coming to the
pleasure.
show. I really appreciate it from the bottom of my heart. I think we're going to do another show with her. I don't know, but very soon. Thank you so much. And thank you so much for viewing in. Please don't forget to subscribe and tell us in the comments section what would you like to hear or what you would like to ask Kim, and also let us know what and who you want next on the show. Thank you so much, and all the best with your life and your happiness and finding your why. That's what the show is about. Bye.